influential. It's all the one that I heard first that grabbed me. So yeah, hats off to Roscoe, but this is probably my second favorite without question, I would think.
Yeah, I have to go along with you there. And and it's right, this is the first one, just like, Linda Carter will always be. But anyway, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of That's Audiophiles. Ah, my name's John. His name is Andy. Say a word for Jimmy Brown. He ain't got nothing at all. Not the shirt right off his back. He ain't got nothing at all. More on that later. But first, because it's Friday, no, yes it is, we have got a special song for us to listen to. It was offered up by one of our lovely viewers. The viewer in question being Sean Davis, 75. Do you know he doesn't look a day over 60? You wouldn't believe it, would you? And he, yeah, has offered up a track by Midlake,
Ah,
and that would be called Head Home. Now, we have done a couple of Midlake tracks before. We've done a couple, Roscoe and Young Bride, and then there was that other one which I
Feast of
reacted to,
Carrion.
Fist of Carrion. So we've got quite a number now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So we are
yeah,
my fourth time going off and listening to them. I really love their sound, so I'm like super eager to check this out. I really loved Roscoe and that. What was the one with Bride in the title? I'm sorry, you just
Young Bride.
Young Bride. That was a really good song too. Just
Yeah,
a notch down. Feast of Carrion was a good song. It was just it caught me a little off guard because it was like listening to them through a different lens or looking at them through a
yeah,
different lens, I guess I should say, because they took on more of a proggy type feel a little bit in that track. But yeah, good
yeah.
stuff. The way I've loved listening to everything from them so far.
Yeah, Fist of Carrion actually surprised me. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
Because, Tim Smith going and all that, it just,
yeah.
it's never usually a good sign. Sometimes it is, but quite often it isn't. And I could list the number of bands where the lead singer's gone off and it's gone. But, anyway, so yeah, you go off and listen to Head Home by Midlake and come back and let us know what you think.
Gladly. It's interesting. You hear like two different motifs, I think both on the keys being played at the same time. One sounds a little bit like fluty in nature, which is an interesting uh tone to grasp at with your keys. I also think, I mean, it sounds good. I also think that like the one is more a bit more resonant, and the other has this 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 kind of pattern going on. They sound really nice together, kind of laid over top of one another.
No one seems to be around. Today they must have all gone off without me again. I think I'll head home. Maybe I'll find them gathered around my doorstep, hold asleep in the comfortable.
Everything is so smooth and precise. It's got this lovely kind of jaunty tempo to it. That's almost, in its own way, kind of like reassuring or almost uplifting. Um, it just has this warmth to the sound. These guys, amazing harmonies, so I'm sure we're gonna get plenty of that. but yes, I love everything I'm hearing so far. This is the Midlake that I fell in love with.
I think I
Lovely.
seems to be around. They must have all gone off without me again. I think I'll head home.
God, those harmonies.
I think I'll head home. Bring me a day full of honest work and a roof that never leaks. I'll be satisfied.
So, this is something that I'm finding similar or akin to when we did Roscoe, which is these lyrics that have all these allusions to these kind of like halcyon days of a bygone era where it's like things were seemingly more agricultural. Like an honest day's work and a roof that doesn't leak and he's all set. You know, these are this is a bygone time. And I think that that was sort of the sound and even the lyrical allusions that we got in portions of Roscoe. So if you were to tell me that these feature on the same album, I would not be surprised in the least. In fact, I'm kind of assuming that they are because everything, this and that song have this like too many similarities. And there's this cohesion that would suggest that they both belong on the same album. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm kind of banking on that being the case. This is really really pretty stuff. Occasionally there's this little like Dire Straits light electric guitar work that's happening occasionally, and that sounds really lovely too. All these guys are killing it. Let's take this back a little bit.
Bring me a day full of honest work and a roof that never leaks. I'll be satisfied. Bring me the news all about the town, how it struggles to help all the farm without joy.
Yeah, farmers, harvest time.
Well, someone I like to see. She never mentions a word to me. She reads Leviathan. I think I'll head home. I think I'll head home.
God,
I think I'll head home. I think I'll head home. I think I'll head home.
oh, that guitar.
I think I'll head home. I think I'll head home. I think I'll head home. I think I'll head home.
Just fade out. Yeah, we'll cut it with a second left, so that just sounded like it was going to cut right off. Brilliant song. I mean, this is just a tick below Roscoe, but I mean, they almost kind of go hand in glove. I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, they just sound too akin to one another for me to think anything else. Yeah, I would say Roscoe, this just after that would be Young Bride, and then that Feast of Carrion. I like that, but it was a bit of a different sound that they were going for, and this sound is just has this lovely balance of like folksy indie that just tickles my happy spot for sure. Yeah, this was gorgeous. I mean, you can't really beat those harmonies. They were amazing. The rhythm section, so precise and surgical, like nothing crazy, nothing over the top, but everything fit perfectly from those very subtle and lovely warm bass fills to the drum rolls and splash that the drummer would employ from time to time, even down to the having a mounted tambourine on the hi-hat. So with every, push of the pedal, it adds this extra vibrant kind of cascading sound. All of it was superb, very deftly done. They knew what they were doing when they did this, and they did it with, again, that precision that I appreciate so much. Yeah, this is a fabulous song. I mean, my only gripe is that it was 325, and I would have, if it would have been 425, I would have, loved it even more. But yeah, this is just another hit from Midlake. I at this point, was it the Trials of an Occupanther or something like that? I think is the name of the album that I assume this is off of, but I know that Roscoe is off of that album. Really, just being introduced to that has been one of the great pleasures that I have derived from doing this channel. Really good stuff. Yeah, would love to see if John can kind of confirm my assumption about this sharing an album with Roscoe, because God, there's so many similarities here. And maybe, he can teach me another thing or two about Midlake that I've yet to learn. This is a really great shout. Let's get back to John.
Brimful of Asher, he's back. So, you've had a listen to Head Home by Midlake. Before you start your ramblings,
Mm.
I have a wee confession to make, which I only just sort of spotted
Oh,
after you toddled off. So I'll be fair enough. I had a bit of trouble trying to find a decent version of this song that wouldn't get blocked or didn't have massive lyrics across the screen or some really awful self-made one. And then when I stumbled across this version, I was like, yes, perfect. Won't get blocked. You can see a bit of the band as well, which we haven't really seen
right. I
before.
was just about to praise your choice because of the live
And
aspect. You haven't
and
explained
then
that.
just as you went off, I just thought, oh, I'll listen to what he's gone, and I realised it looks at the length, and this is a shortened version. The album version is actually like 5.5, 5 minutes 46 actually.
Jesus.
So you missed on the second half. I mean, the bit you really miss is a nice guitar solo right after this stops, and then it sort of repeats it and builds on what they've already done. So you get exactly the same lyrics and stuff. So
Okay.
go off and listen to the full one on your own time. I can't pay for the whole 5 minutes. So no apologies for everybody else out there. I fucked up, but anyway,
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I think the only qualm that I had with this entire, song that I thought was the only version of it was that it was a bit
Sure.
too short. I think I even said if it had been 4.5 minutes long, it would have been perfect. It's nice to hear that
Ah,
it's actually more like 540 and they do some interesting guitar stuff, which just because of the guitar that the bits of lead that you could hear sort of like meshing with the other portions during the song, I really enjoyed. So it would have been nice to get like an extended version of what was happening there, or something completely different. I don't even know. I've yet to hear it, but the guitar work was really nice. So I get the idea that there's more waiting for me when we get done here. I'll definitely go check it out. But also, the other thing is, I was also kind of, as I mentioned before, kind of praising the choice because, yeah, I finally got to see them play in like all their glory live, where
yeah,
everything else
yeah.
out of this recording. So that was, I mean, I can't, poo-poo you too much for your choice because you did avail me this opportunity to see them play live, which is great. So yeah, the song begins with this lovely bit of like I think this is like dueling key work, where one of them is playing a more open and sustained motif that is a little bit lazier, for lack of a better phrase. And then you have this also that one had kind of this like pan flute effect on it, so it sounded like a woodwind instrument, a higher registered woodwind instrument of some sort. The other one had this more conventional sound to it, and it was moving in this sort of waltzy 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 motif that was also like cyclical and hypnotic. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say this way, remember, it just reminds me there was sort of rife in the late 70s and early 80s, and seemingly every grandma or every grandma's friend had a Yamaha organ which had all these effects that was like
Yes.
panpipes and all that. And it was
Yep.
that was what it sounded like to me.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I remember the same thing. You could switch it up and make it sound like violin, or you could make it sound
Yeah,
like
yeah,
brass
yeah.
instrument. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Bossa Nova.
The pre-recorded beat or whatever. Um, so yeah, then the drums do a little roll to usher in the rest of the musicians, and as the song takes form, it really features this almost uplifting quality to it. Perhaps it's the acoustic guitar or the up-tempo movement or the jaunty key motif during this portion, but likely it's all of those things working together to give it this sound and feeling. A lot of warmth in this song, just in all the tones, and so everything's kind of like really smoothed over, uh, which makes it sound fabulous to me. In comes Tim Smith, the man you mentioned earlier when you were introing the song, with that classic placid but soft and soothy folksy kind soothing folksy delivery that he has. His delivery of the verse is met with some terrific harmonies from his bandmates as he sings about the absence of friends or family, as I'm paraphrasing, as no one seems to be around. But he does hope that perhaps if he heads home, they might be there waiting for him at his doorstep. Uh, I just mentioned I want to come back to it. The this band's ability, and this is probably more so during, and this is an assumption on me because my only real taste of them post Tim Smith's departure was Feast of Carrion. But my God, during his era as the lead singer, and all of them also being very accomplished vocalists, from what all evidence would suggest, their harmonies are like nearly second to none. I mean, we're talking about like Crosby, Stills, Nash, kind of like almost Beach Boys level of being able to harmonize together. And it adds so much organic richness to the dish. Because here we aren't reaching out for digital mechanisms and machinations and things to give the song this added layer. No, these are just everybody doing their part and singing, and it sounds so goddamn good. And those harmonies shine even brighter during the portion where they repeat that refrain, I think I'll head home. It's lush and rich, and you can really hear every layer of the group vocals. The camera catches this, so that was helpful, or at least I caught the camera doing it. I guess it all boils down to what I'm looking at. But at the 111 mark, we catch a lovely little bass fill by your man on the Fender. And it's honestly not the first time I've noticed his little background um, light chicanery going on there. There's some fun little movement happening on the neck, and it
Yeah.
sounds really, really great. In fact, by the end of this, I was so floored by the job of the rhythm section on this, by being like what we often gush about precision and being a huge part without standing out and like hogging the spotlight when it comes to drummers and stuff like that. These two working together did such a fabulous job with this track. They really did. The refrain is then repeated, and then it transitions, and we hear Smith and company deliver a great little line where they sing, bring me a day full of honest work and a roof that never leaks. I'll be satisfied. And these lyrics to me are reminiscent of Roscoe. In fact, the entire aesthetic of the song. But it's when it got to the lyrics that it really was like cemented it for me. Um, they convey this simpler life and simpler times kind of ethos centered around self-sufficiency and living off the land. And maybe I'm wrong, and I see it there now that I'm talking about the record hanging behind you. But this is where I just ended up coming back to Roscoe, and I had to think that this song features on the same album, because they're so akin to one another. all throughout this track, the drummer has done a really stellar job at adding these little bits and flourishes, as I kind of just mentioned a couple moments ago, without it being too over the top or drawing attention away from the sum of the parts. It's that tasteful style of drumming that you and I gravitate toward and have a lot of reverence for. Just knowing the exact amount of touch to apply when you're behind the kit, and this guy, I think, really encapsulated and illustrated that to the T. Then we get this reference to the town and farmers and harvest time, and my feelings from earlier about painting a picture of a bygone, halcyon, agriculturally centered society are only further amplified by this. This again underscores this idea of this DIY live off the land thing that we got shades of in Roscoe as well. Also, this is a little bit more behind the scenes and a little self-indulgent, but I call it the word Leviathan, which absolutely made me chuckle because you and I recently had a discussion off camera about where we mocked the naming conventions of external hard drives and how they seem to up the ante when it comes to their nomenclature and corresponding capacity. So I believe that I offered up Leviathan as an example of one of these, and we both had a good chuckle. So when I heard it, I was like, there we go. It's at this point that the band begins to repeat the chorus or the refrain, whatever you want to call it. We get this faint but really pristine sounding guitar leads. Again, this isn't the first time that they've appeared, but I'm making note of it now. And I kept thinking that it's like akin to Knopfler's kind of. It's got this like Dire Straits light kind of sound to the lead guitar bits in this. So now you having mentioned that there's this second half of a song out there, or a version of the song that has a second half where there's lead guitar work. I'd really love to see where it goes from here, because the little tastes and accents that I got kind of took me to, again, the aforementioned Dire Straits kind of sound, and it was really interesting to pick up on that. It's nothing fancy, but it's undeniably pretty as it descends in the background before gaining just a bit of steam, noodling beneath the band's like beautiful harmonies. And from there, they continue to repeat the refrain of the song, and the video kind of like fades to black quickly. By the way, I had to jump on that stop button. This is right up there with Young Bride for me, perhaps even a tick above it. And it's pretty well above Feast of Carrion, but I just can't. I don't think it touches Roscoe, and I don't think anything ever will, because it was my introduction to them, and I really like that was the moment that I fell in love with their sound. But I have to say it's fairly close, and I think that it can be attributed honestly to how similar the songs are in style and construct. It's almost like the two were meant to be paired together, or at the very least intended to share the same album. So needless to say, I would be stunned to hear that this track doesn't also feature on the interestingly titled, and I can't believe I'm just now getting around to saying it, The Trials of Van Occupanther. But it is something that you can confirm for me. So please, John, tell me more about this wonderfully warm track by the guys at Midlake.
Yeah. So as previously mentioned, we've done a couple of songs off this album, Roscoe Young Bride. This is the third track from their second album, The Trials of Van Occupanther.
Oh, really? You know what?
2006.
I didn't even realize. I had thought that Young Bride featured on the subsequent album to this, or the one that came before it. I didn't know that this was. I mean, it has that sound. But interesting. Okay. Brain fart.
So yeah, we've covered it before in previous episodes. So playlist, link below, go check it out. They're all great songs, and particularly Roscoe. So it's worth going to listen to that and seeing Andy lose his shit over listen to that the first time. So I won't go into that much detail. My take on this song is that I'd say it's the second best song of the album. Roscoe is my favorite. Best is a quantitative term, is totally subjective. So but my favorite, and this is my second favorite. I would go as far as say that it's a sister song to Roscoe in terms of its sensibilities, sound, couple of lyrics, all that sort of placement there. Yeah, and it even has that more warmth and 1970s feel, which makes me feel like a small boy listening to it, than Roscoe. So it makes me think of my dad's old Marina and vinyl seats that got really hot in the summer and took your skin off, and wind down windows and things like that. I've got a couple of interesting sort of write-ups on this, which I'll go into in a second. So just to recap personnel: Tim Smith, the wonderful Tim Smith, vocal. This is for the whole album: vocals, piano, keyboard, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, flute. Eric Pulido, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, 12-string acoustic guitar, keyboards, backing vocals. They say backing vocals, and they all do backing vocals, but his voice in particular is the one that pairs with Tim Smith's, that intertwine so beautifully. Eric Nicholson, keyboards, piano, acoustic guitar, 12-string acoustic guitar, electric guitar. Paul Alexander, bass, double bass, electric guitar, keyboards, piano, bassoon. And Mackenzie Smith, drums, percussion. Lazy ass, couldn't be bothered to learn anything else. Yeah. So, a couple of bit of write-ups because we've done so much about this album and about this, it seems to be going over it. So I'll give you this write-up here, which is quite interesting. We'll go through the lyrics, and then there's another sort of piece I found. So, Drowned in Sound. They said Midlake's Head Home track effortlessly sends my mind out, regurgitating memories and stepping into their outlines to live them again, despite the song not being present in them to start with. Something about singer Tim Smith's voice actually resonates with the loneliness he sings about. The simplest phrases carry heavy weight. He quotes, "No one seems to be around today. They must have all gone off without me again." His voice reedy and of the nearing tears but stoic category. Close my eyes and I could be back in the youth hostel, awake in the morning as I realize my friends have all left on the plane that morning, a sudden stab of loneliness in a strange country. It's evocative, isn't it? As the harmony becomes darker and guitar lines seedier in a 70s drama style, I feel I'm up in the moors again. Exmoor, Dartmoor, Yorkshire moors. Any moor will do. It's not that I was ever really alone with just sky and bracken, but that I would try to be. I wanted harsh winds to push me across the heather, to sleep rough near the peat bogs and be gloriously natural, horribly lonesome. Midlake have plenty of open beauty around them, a disregard for concise song structure, a breathy harmony, and flute parts covered in reverb. Withdrawn from the album's wonderful narrative, lines referencing early 1900s poverty carry less meaning, but the thick, in brackets, and absolutely middle road production inexplicably keep adding to the atmosphere of this beautifully crafted song. So yeah, someone's a fan. I think that's quite a nice little piece there. So the lyrics: no one seems to be around. Today they must have all gone off without me again. Think I'll head home. Maybe I'll find them gathered round my doorstep. Oh, to sleep in a comfortable bed. I think I'll head home. No one seems to be around. Today they must have all gone off without me again. I think I'll head home. I think I'll head home. And then up a bit. Bring me a day full of honest work and a roof that never leaks. I'll be satisfied. Bring me the news all about the town, how it struggles to help all the farmers out during harvest time. But there's someone I'd like to see. She never mentions a word to me. She reads Leviathan. I think I'll head home. And it's a long 4 times. And then it's, I think I'll head home 4 times. And that's your lot. Now, in the proper version, it goes back into bring me a day of honest work again, roof over these, blah, blah, blah. So let's see Leviathan, then home again, just loads and loads and loads more times. Okay. So you have a little electric guitar break, which is kind of sounds fat, a bit raspy, and a slightly dissonant. It's quite short. I'd say 20, 30 seconds maybe. Perhaps I'm wrong.
But it sounds like a completely different tone than the way you're describing.
Yeah, it's just interesting
from what he's doing earlier.
The others, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they repeat the sort of refrain, if you want to call it, I think I'll head home, you're getting lovely loads of harmonies. You're getting those, you say, those Knopfler type touches over the top, more and more of them. And it's all swirling and blending, and you're getting more and more drum fills. But they're all, again, really, there's not, nothing standing out or sticking its head above the group. It's all working together as this swirl. And, it's just, yeah, it's just beautiful. And although the track is 5 minutes 46, the fade out starts at 5:12 or something. So you've basically got half a minute of it just going quieter and quieter and quieter. And that's one of my pet hates is really long fades. It's like, oh, and you're just stretching it out. Anyway, back to the song. Songs from So Deep blog site. Did a nice little write up here, and they say Midlake's The Trials of An Panther is an unassuming record, a blend of folk rock and West Coast FM pop with lyrics from the perspective of some rustic 19th century homesteader, played by a group that started life as a jazz band. It was released to middling reviews, with the most positive notes coming from smaller review websites. Pitchfork, by contrast, gave it a slightly bemused 6.8 out of 10, wondering why a band that had previously dealt in synth-age psychedelia had retreated to mid-70s semi-acoustic rock. Yeah. But Van Panther connected hard with its audience. It seemed to me then it was one of the big three indie rock records of that period, along with Fleet Foxes' self-titled debut and Forever Ago, the first Bon Iver full length. All three shared an aesthetic in which men were men, living in self-sufficient isolation in wooden cabins, thinking big thoughts and hunting for their food. All three began to influence indie and unsigned musicians immediately. I mean, when the writer says indie, there's a very certain type of indie. It's not affecting Smashing Pumpkins in any way, it's your Mumford and Sons and all this, people who've suddenly reinvented Greenwich Village from 1967 as their own. But yeah, anyway, they continue. Roscoe continues to be Van Panther's signature song, but as a huge Fleetwood Mac fan, in the midst of his most intense period of Fleetwood Mac fandom, Head Home was my immediate favourite, and on balance probably remains so, even while I can see why most people went crazy over Roscoe. Head Home is a song where those Fleetwood Mac comparisons are most justified. It has all of the Rumours era ingredients, the Mick Fleetwood bass drum groove, a gnarled Lindsey Buckingham-esque solo, which you didn't hear, from Eric Nicholson, and super tight harmonies from Smith and Pulido. The falsetto harmony from, I think, Smith does a credible job of recreating a Christine McVie part above the Buckingham and Nick's vocal lines. That's him. He's really going for it here. Brilliant. But it's not a slavish imitation. It's taken at a brisker clip than you'll usually hear from the steady mid-tempo Mac, which, along with more of Mackenzie Smith's dexterous jazz-trained fills, gives it a slightly panicky, nervous energy, and it's filled with Tim Smith's usual lyrical preoccupations. However naively romantic and, it has to be said, juvenile, a sentiment like "Bring me a day of honest work and a roof that never leaks, I'll be satisfied" may be, it's not something you get from a Stevie or Lindsay song.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Head Home is thrilling because of the quality of the performances, both vocal and instrumental, and the cumulative effect of those harmonies during the long coda. Nowhere else in the Midlake canon did the band manage quite the same combination of power, medley, and sophisticated vocal arrangement. It's quite glorious. So that's the case for it being their favourite song.
Well, like I said, it won't be mine, but it is, if it makes them sleep any better at night, it's only about that much shy of my affinity.
Yeah.
And mine is very circumstantial. It's all the one that I heard first that grabbed me. So yeah, hats off to Roscoe, but this is probably my second favorite without question, I would think.
Yeah, I have to go along with you there. And and it's right, this is the first one, just like, Linda Carter will always be. But anyway, This was a great shout from Sean Davies.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Really enjoyed listening to this again, and I know you did as well. I'll wrap things up. Thanks for listening to this, Andy. Thanks, Sean, for recommending it. Folks out there, tell us what you think. If you like this, do slap your meaty paw on the like button and let us know. Please drop some comments. Love to hear what you think about this song and any Fleetwood Mac comparisons. And about this album as well. I think we've had plenty of comments before about how wonderful it is, and that Roscoe isn't the best tune, and then other people saying it is, and then some other people saying it isn't. So that's always nice to have that healthy debate. But yeah, please do. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do and help support this channel. And if you're wondering, how come he got his song on there, Governor? Well, we're not taking any recommendations from black cab drivers in London, but what you can do is drop a recommendation in any one of our episodes, and we'll add it to the list. And it will one day probably be done. That being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.